welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Alert, your go-to source for the latest updates. Today, we're re-tackling the big question on everyone's mind. Will the Iraqi dinar finally revalue in 2025? It's a topic that has fascinated speculators for years, but as we move through 2025, what do the experts really think? Let's dive into the current landscape and the most realistic predictions. First, let's get straight to the official word. The Central Bank of Iraq, or CBI, has been very clear. They've officially denied any plans for a sudden, dramatic revaluation. In fact, they released a statement rejecting these rumors, explaining that such speculation is actually harmful to the market. The CBI's main goal is price stability, not creating overnight millionaires. V. Also confirmed that Iraq's foreign currency and gold reserves are strong enough to support their current policies. So, from the top, the message is stability, not a sudden revaluation. Now, what are financial institutions saying? Most agree that a huge jump, like the dinar hitting 121 with the US dollar, is highly unlikely this year. EBC Financial Group, for instance, published a report that lays out a few possible scenarios. They argue that a skyrocketing revaluation would need deep, structural reforms in Iraq's economy, and frankly, those reforms just aren't happening fast enough. According to EBC, the most likely scenario, with about a 60% probability, is what they call managed stability. This means the dinar will likely stay in its current range, somewhere around 1,300 to 1,320 dinars per US dollar. We might see small ups and downs tied to oil prices or political news, but nothing major. Then there's the bull case, or the optimistic scenario, which they give a 25% chance. In this version, if Iraq manages to secure agreements with the IMF, implement serious tax reforms, boost its oil production, the dinar could see a modest, gradual appreciation. We're talking low single-digit percentage gains over the year, not a massive leap. Finally, there's the bear case, with a 15% probability. This is the pessimistic view, where things like regional instability, a crash in oil prices, or poor financial management could actually put downward pressure on the dinar, potentially weakening it. So, what's holding the dinar back from a massive revaluation? The biggest factor is oil. Iraq's economy is overwhelmingly dependent on it, with oil exports making up about 90% of government revenue. For a major revaluation to happen, Iraq would need consistently high oil prices, which is a huge gamble in today's volatile global market. Beyond oil, there are the institutional reforms we mentioned earlier. Experts point out that without real changes in how the country handles taxes, governance, and its banking system, any revaluation would be superficial. For example, financial inclusion is still very low in Iraq, with only about 30% of adults even having a bank account. And while there's talk of a digital dinar, the infrastructure needed for that is still a long way off. Of course, we can't ignore the political side. Some people tie a potential revaluation to political events like elections. However, most serious analysts will tell you that central banks base their decisions on economic data, not the political calendar. The idea of a revalue after the election is seen more as speculation than a realistic forecast. Now, it's not all standing still. There are some positive signs. Non-performing loans in Iraqi banks have reportedly dropped, which is great for financial stability. More banks are also connecting to global systems like SWIFT. Some speculative communities believe that new oil deals, like those involving Kurdistan, could force the CBI's hand. But again, many economists warn that this ignores the bigger economic risks. So, why do we hear so many overhyped predictions? A lot of it is wishful thinking, and unfortunately, some of it is driven by misinformation or outright scams. Myths like Iraq's oil wealth guarantees a revaluation, or banks are secretly preparing to change the rate, have been around for years, but there's no real evidence to support them. These claims are often part of a marketing push, not sound economic analysis. Despite the consensus leaning toward stability, there are still pockets of optimism, mainly in the dinar speculator communities. They argue that new oil and gas laws could unlock huge revenues, or that a digital dinar could modernize the system and make a revaluation easier to manage. In these optimistic scenarios, any change would likely be gradual, not a sudden jump. So, to sum it all up for 2025, a massive revaluation seems very unlikely. The CBI has publicly denied it. The necessary infrastructure isn't ready, and the economic and political risks are high. The most probable outcome is continued stability, with the dinar staying close to its current value. A slow, gradual strengthening is possible, but it depends on major reforms and a stable energy market. The bottom line from the experts is this: 2025 is shaping up to be a year of stability for the Iraqi dinar, not fireworks. Thanks for tuning in to Iraqi Dinar Alert. Make sure to subscribe for more updates, and we'll see you in the next video.